people's wealth. As long as people don't get caught, it is considered as you are a successful person. You are able to achieve all these things in this life. And hence, it is important to look at how Umar bin Khattab radiallahu an was dealing with this phenomena of acknowledging the righteous deeds and remembering the righteous deeds of the people. And the result of that was it caused a society to continue to be righteous and competing with each other. People start competing with each other to achieve the righteousness, to achieve the goodness in the society, and hence the goodness prevailed, and Islam at large prevailed in the societies and in the whole world at the time of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh. So now when we look at that, let's see some of the examples, inshallah, and we can reflect on them in today's life and see how when Islam is in place can cause the society to be good and continue to be good. Now, Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, he was in general he was a very good judge of character, and he used to say that do not be deceived by a man's eloquence. Rather, whoever fulfills the trust and refrains from impugning people's honor is a real man. Now, and similarly, he said, do not look at a man's prayers and fasting. Rather, look at his reason and honesty. And it is one of the things that people sometimes have a misconception. Once a person sees somebody in the masjid, or a person has been seen doing a few righteous deeds here and there, and they start thinking of him as he's a very righteous person, and they start giving even become witness for his righteousness. As one of the examples of that happened in the time of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh is a great example to understand when somebody asks, for example, about a person's nobility or person's righteousness, or person if he's trustworthy or not. So how Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh had dealt with it. And Umar asked about a man who had given testimony, wanted to find out whether anyone can vouch for him or not. And a man said that I will vouch for him. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh said that are you his neighbor? And he said no. Then he asked, did you mix with him for a day and come to know his real character? He said no. He asked, then did you travel with him for traveling? And we know actually, and we can look at our own lives as well for that. If you travel with somebody for a longer period of time, away from all the normal luxuries of the life that people have, or the basic necessities of life you have around you all the time. When you're traveling, a lot of time those things are not around you, or at least you are not in the comfort of your home. So that shows the reality of many of the people when you start traveling with them. So Umar Khattab asked him, have you traveled with him? So he said no. Then Umar said, perhaps you saw him in the masjid, standing, sitting, and praying. He said yes. Then Umar said, go away, for you do not know him. See, just because seeing somebody praying in front of you is not sufficient to know the real character of a person. That could be one of the characteristics, but this does not give the whole picture of a person. As Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh mentioned in one of the places, that there are two types of men I do not fear. One of them is, he mentions that I do not fear a believer whose faith is obvious, and a kafir whose kufr is obvious. Rather, I fear for you the hypocrites who hides himself behind a show of faith, but strives for some other purposes. This is why when he said that the prayer and fasting is not sufficient, rather you should know the reason for his actions and his honesty. So Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh was a great person in judging the characters of the people. And this kind of example gives us an idea of, and this is a normal thing, a lot of time it happens to us. If somebody comes up to you and asks about the character of a person regarding, let's say, if he is getting married to somebody, or a girl is getting married to somebody, and the father comes and asks you information about the person she's getting married to, or they have proposed at least, then we should be careful about who we are collecting the information from. And it's not only for marriage; it would be for anything else. Similarly, we see another example of Umar bin Khattab with Adi bin Hatim radiallahu anh. And we know Adi bin Hatim radiallahu anh was from the tribe of Tay. This is why his father famously was called Hatim Tai. Hatim Tai because he was from Tai. So now, so, Adi bin Hatim says, I came to Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, and he said some of the people from his tribe, some of my people, he said, with some, and he started giving each man of a share of 2,000 and ignoring me. And he was continuously doing that, and he was continuously ignoring Adi bin Hatim radiallahu anh. And Adi came in front of him in case he thought probably Umar did not see him or he has forgotten. So he's showing his face. And finally he said, "Oh Amir al-Mu'minin, do you recognize me?" And subhanallah, and he says, he laughed so hard he nearly fell on his back. And he said, "Yes, by Allah, I recognize you. You believed when they did not," talking about the other people of Tay, they did not believe what Adi bin Hatim did. He said, "You came when they turned away, and you were loyal when they proved treacherous." The first charity which brought support and joy to Rasulullah ﷺ and his Sahaba was the charity of Tay, which you brought to Rasulullah ﷺ. And then he apologized and said, "I have allocated it to people who are suffering extreme poverty." So he told them, look, the ones I am giving to, they are extremely poor people, and even the leaders among them who are poor within the tribe of Tay, hence he was giving it to them. And then when Adi bin Hatim, radiallahu anh, when he heard that, he said, "Then I do not mind that you're giving to them," and he was ignoring. The point here is how Umar bin Khattab, radiallahu anh, he recognized, and not only recognized, he acknowledged, and he told him that the good deeds that he did, and because of those good deeds, how much benefit the Islam got out of him. Now, similarly, about recognizing and acknowledging the good deeds. And look, you will see that I am talking about different actions of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, because these are all very different kinds of recognition of actions that Umar bin Khattab did, and all these actions play a pivotal role in keeping or upholding the righteousness and goodness in the society. So, like for example, Adi bin Hatim's actions were great actions that were done, but at the same time, if he was ignored, that could cause damage in the society. So Umar was very clear about that. He approved, acknowledged, and recognized all the goods that Adi bin Hatim did, but at the same time, the need was something else. The acknowledgement was to make sure that Adi does not think differently about how the state was run in the time of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, meaning he does not have a wrong concept that as if Umar was giving some sort of nepotism or some sort of favoritism to certain kind of people. Rather, it was more of running the affairs of the state that have to be done justly, and the people who are in need their needs have to be fulfilled. Now, other example was example of Abdullah bin Hudhafa. Abdullah bin Hudhafa radiallahu anh was one of the Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was captured by the Romans. Now, when he was captured by the Romans, he was taken to the king, and now the king wanted him to become Christian, and he was asking him, he was trying to allure him in a different ways, because Sahaba were they were like superheroes of that time, because even the Qaisar wa Kisra, meaning the Romans and the Persians, they were surprised by the swift spread of Islam throughout the world, even in those so-called superpowers of that time in their empires, and they were being defeated by the Muslims at that time in a very short period of time. So for them, Sahaba were like people who they were great people, and they wanted to meet them, they wanted to see them. Hence, what he did was he wanted Abdullah bin Hudhafa to become Christian, and not only wanted to become Christian, but also he was asking him to he will give him the share of his kingdom, and to on top of that, he offered his daughter's hand in marriage to him. That's a great thing from the dunya perspective people can think of course. But Abdullah bin Hudhafa said to him, "Even if you give me all that you possess and all the Arabs possess to make me give up the deen of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he said that he will leave it for the blink of an eye. He does not leave what he's offering, not the deen. If I come out wrong, he will not take that, and he will continue to stick to the deen of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam." So he said, then the king said, "Then I will kill you." And he said, "It's up to you." So the king ordered he to be crucified, and that the archers shoot him near his hands and feet. while he was telling him to become Christian. But he refused to do so. So he realized that Abdullah bin Hudhafa is not listening. So now he tried to do another tactic. So now he tried to kill the other prisoners who were along with him to be killed. And around him, he started killing them. So how are they doing it? They boiled up. They brought a big pot or something you want to call it, and the oil was. The oil was burning in it. It was on the fire, and he started asking the people to be thrown into that. And when they were throwing a live person into that burning oil or whatsoever was in it that was boiling, that was causing like the person's instantaneous death, and all the flesh would separate from the bones. Now, when this was happening, now he said, okay, then let's put him. So he into that big pot. And when they were going to throw Abdullah bin Hudhafa, so he started weeping. And now, so the king thought, okay, now he's going to give up. So he said, do you give up and you want to become Christian? And Abdullah bin Hudhafa radiallahu anh says, I am only weeping because I have but one soul to throw into this pot for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah. So he's not weeping because of he's going to die. Rather, he was weeping that this is the only one soul. Once he's killed, then this is it. So he said, I wish that I had many souls as there are here on my body. So they may all receive this torture for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the king, at this point, he realized he will not be able to change the mind of Abdullah bin Hudhafa. So he imprisoned him. And then he sent wine and pork to him, but he did not touch him. So the king asked him, why didn't you eat? And he said, they were permissible, meaning the situation he was in, but I did not want to give you the satisfaction. So the king said to him, okay, kiss my head and I will let you go. Abdullah bin Hudhafa said, no, I will do it if you free all the prisoners that you have, Muslim prisoners, then I'll kiss your head. So he said, okay, yes, he will do that. So he went ahead and kissed the head of the king, and not only himself was freed, but all the prisoners of the Muslims who were along with him, they were freed along with him. So now, when he came back to Medina, now Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh found out what happened. So Umar bin Khattab, he recognized what Abdullah bin Hudhafa did. So he said that everyone should kiss the head of Abdullah bin Hudhafa, and he said he will be the first one. And he went ahead, stood up and kissed the head of Abdullah bin Hudhafa to recognize the good deed that Abdullah bin Hudhafa did that benefited not only him, but all the Muslims who were along with him who were imprisoned at that time. So that's to recognize the bravery, and bravery is important a part of a society to continue to be good. Now, the other aspect was another thing that happened in time of Khattab, which was regarding Uwais bin Ibn Amir radiallahu anhu. He's also famously known as Uwais Qarni radiallahu anhu. He was not a Sahabi in a sense of because he became Muslim in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he never saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So one of the terms used for that is Hadrami. So now he was not a Sahabi, but there is certain things Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned about Uwais Qarni. And so Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, he was aware of the things Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, and I'll talk about that, about the things he said. So Umar bin Khattab said he said that when the delegation came from Yemen, because he was from Yemen, he said, Umar bin Khattab said, is Uwais bin Amir among you? And when he found him, he asked, are you Uwais bin Amir radiallahu anh? He answered, yes. He is from Murad, then from Qarn. So he's talking about his lineage. And he said, yes. He then said, did you have leprosy? Then you were healed, except very small spot which is the size of a dirham left on your body. He said, yes. He said, do you have a mother? He said, yes. And then Umar said, I heard Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that they will come to you Uwais bin Amir among the delegations of the Yemen, from Murad, from Qarn, and he has leprosy. Then he was healed. He was healed, except the dirham size of the skin that was not healed. And he said, if he asked this person Uwais Qarni or Uwais bin Amir radiallahu anh, if he is asked for anything, Meaning, if he make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to it. So if you see him, and the reason that is because he has a mother whom he honors, and if he asks Allah for anything, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants him. So if you can ask him to pray for forgiveness for you, then do so. This is why Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh was looking for Uwais bin Amir radiallahu anh. See, this is an interesting thing, that Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh is one of those Sahaba, the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who gave the glad tidings of Jannah for him in this dunya. Meaning, he, as one of the hadith talks about, he was from the one of the 10 Ashara Mubashara, that 10 who were given the glad tidings in this dunya. And there were others as well, but the one specific hadith that talks about the Ashara Mubashara. And he was one of those Sahaba who were given the news of Jannah in this dunya. Even then, he was looking for all sorts of good deeds that he can do, including asking a person Rasulullah mentioned to ask him to make dua for you for forgiveness. So Umar went and asked him to make dua for him. So he said, pray for me for forgiveness. So he prayed for forgiveness for him. And Umar asked him, where are you going? And he said, Kufa. He said, why don't I write a letter for you to the governor? And Uwais said, I prefer to live among the poor and humble people. And the following year, one of the noble people of Kufa came back to Umar, who met him and asked about Uwais. He said, I left him in humble circumstances and with a meager means. He said, I heard Rasulullah said, they will come to you, Uwais bin Amir, among the delegation from Yemen, from Murad, from Qarn, as the hadith that I mentioned before. And if you can ask him to pray for forgiveness for you, then do so. That man went to Uwais and said, pray for forgiveness for me. And Uwais said, rather you should do that for me, for you have just come from traveling. As we know, if a person is traveling, his dua is acceptable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so Uwais put that on him, but still he asked him to make a dua for him. And Uwais did so. And he said, did you meet Umar? He said, yes. So he prayed for forgiveness for him. And then people can come to know about the story of Uwais, and he went away. He ran away from that place because he did not want the people to know about him, and they will be just gathering around him, asking him ask for forgiveness and so on and forth. So he wanted to live a humble life, not in the eyes of the people, and he fled from there. Again, another aspect of goodness in the society, that if somebody is righteous, that is we are aware of. In this case, we're talking about, of course, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned about him. And hence, Umar bin Khattab was after him. Otherwise, we understand that righteousness is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the best. Of course, we can talk about from what we see, and we can only talk about the things that we see in a person. We don't know the what's in the hearts of the people. So, but this is important in a societal life. Then Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, his dealing with one of the people who lost his arm in a battlefield, and still he used to take care of his mother. What happened was, one time some of the fighters, they came back from Syria, and they were going for Yemen. And Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, he was distributing the food among them after Salatul Fajr, and one of the men, he was eating with the left hand. So Umar bin Khattab said to eat with the right hand. And he did not respond. And then Umar repeated again. He said, "Oh, my right hand is busy." Now, when he finished eating, Umar said, "What was your right hand busy with?" So he moved his cloak from his shoulder, and the arm was missing. So Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, he asked him, "What is this?" And he said, "I lost my hand on the day of the Yarmouk." And he said, who helps you? How do you make wudu? And he said, I use my left hand. I use my left hand to do the wudu. And then he asked him about where are you heading? And he said that I am going to Yemen because my mother is there, and it's been many years that I have seen her, so I can go and spend time with my mother. So Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, he said, also you honor your mother as well in that situation you are in, meaning you go and try to take care of whatever you can within the means that you have. So Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, he ordered that he be given servant and 5 camels loaded with the charity and the stuff on it. The point of bringing this up is the people who have given their whether they got injured or given their lives for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they've been honored by the state that is running by the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is what Umar showed in this action as well. So because the person was not only one of the fighters, rather also he was taking care of his mother as well, and he wanted to give respect, due respect and honor to the mother who gave birth to a man like that. Other action that you see about this person who lost his arm in the Yarmouk, he did not want to show off that he has lost his arm or to talk about this until Umar persisted to know what's going on. Why is he not using the right hand? And he was trying to hide this, a good deed because of which he lost his arm. And this is one of the things that we should always think of when we are doing any kind of good deed, that it does not come under the riya, meaning or showing off, and it is a riya, meaning to show off. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not accept that kind of deed. Okay, then a similar example of that happened in Umar, when one of the guys who, a man who actually had a scar on his face because of fighting in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he asked him about it, and he told him how he got it. And he said, give him 1,000. Allah knows, I'm assuming this is dirham, and he was given a dirham, 1,000 dirham. And then he said, give him another 1,000, and they gave him another 1,000, and then he said, give him another, and up to until he was given 4,000 dirhams. And then the man himself said that he got embarrassed, and he said, this is enough. What you have given me is enough. And Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu's response was, by Allah, if he had stayed, we would have kept giving him to him as long as there were any dirhams left. A man who receives a blow when fighting for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the left scar on his face, that is enough for him to even empty out his Baytul Mal, or the treasury of the state at that time. Now, one of the examples which is mentioned in the riwayat about Umar al-Khattab is Umar once asked the Sahaba regarding make a wish. It's more of like a, you think about it, if you have one wish to be fulfilled, what wish would you make? So kind of you can think of, you're trying to make a goal here. And somebody said that I wish that this house was filled with gold I could spend for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another man said, I wish that this was filled with jewels and different kinds of gems and stuff, and I could spend for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in charity. Now Umar bin Khattab, he was asked, okay, what would he think? And Umar said, he said, well, what else can you make a wish? First Umar asked. He said, we don't know. So then Umar said, okay, if I had the wish, so I would say, he said, I would wish that this room is filled with likes of Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah radiallahu anhu, Mu'ad bin Jabal radiallahu anhu, and Salim, the freed slave of Abu Hudayfa, and Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman radiallahu alayhim, that Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, he wished for personalities than the wealth or the gold or the silver, rather the personalities. Because look, this is the most important thing, the intellect, or the way people think. The people are the one who really make up the real society. Yes, there you need certain needs to be fulfilled and all those things, but if you have the mind, if you have the people, they can make the means from the intellect that they have. But if you don't have the mind and the intellect, and you can have you can have all the wealth in the world, you will lose it, or you will waste it. As we can see today in the Muslim world is a very clear example that there are many parts of the Muslim world, they are the richest people in the world. Allah has blessed them with so much means in this dunya, but they are of no use for themselves in reality, and for the mankind at large. It is just being wasted and being taken away, usurped by others. That was given to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as one of the amana to them, and they will be asked about what they have done, the control Allah gave them about the wealth they were given in the dunya. So anyways, so that was the thinking of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. Why? Because these are the people, they were his brothers in faith. Umar said, and described sincere companions. He said, you should look for sincerity sincere companions, for you will be happy with them, and they will be a source of pleasure at times of ease and a support of at a time of calamity. And he, so that's what he mentioned about what would be his wish if it comes to wishing for something that can come true. Um, Another example was about the example of Suhail bin Amr radiallahu an. He was a Sahabi Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he came to Islam later on. He was actually the person who came from the side of the Meccans to make the treaty of Hudaybiyah. He's the one who was writing or he was making the treaty with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, treaty of Hudaybiyah. And his own son Abu Jandal, who became a Muslim, and he came and he wanted him to be back to the Quraysh at that time. I don't want to go into the whole history of the Hudaybiyah, but just to give an idea. So he was one of the later Muslims who came into Islam in the later part of the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, but Umar radiallahu anh he used to distinguish the people who came into Islam first compared to the others, the one who fought against Islam and the one who did never fought against Islam. So when some of the leaders of Quraysh, they were led by Suhail bin Amr radiallahu anh and Abu Sufyan bin Harb. And they both were actually leaders in the time, during the time of Kufr as well. And some former slaves of the Quraysh, so that included Suhaib al-Rumi and Bilal al-Habashi radiallahu anh, they came to him and he gave the poor free slaves permission to meet him before he gave permission to Suhail ibn Amr and Abu Sufyan bin Harb. Now at that time, Suhail ibn Amr did not say anything, but Abu Sufyan, he said, I have never seen anything like this today. Like today, he said. He gives permission to these slaves and leave us at his door. And Suhail said, "O people, by Allah, I can see what is in your faces. If you want to be angry, then be angry with yourselves. The people are called to Islam, and so were you. But they hastened to accept Islam while you stayed behind. So how will you be if they are called on the day of resurrection and you are left behind?" Subhanallah. So Suhail ibn Amr radiallahu anh, he was a very sharp person, a very sharp Sahabi radiallahu anh, and he understood why Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh was giving the preference of those so-called freed slaves. And of course, when we are talking about slavery and all those things, how Islam took care of it, this is a topic of its own. But look how Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh was dealing with those free slaves over the leaders of the tribes. And if we understand, when we say leaders of the tribes, what that meant in the society of Arabian Peninsula at that time, it is important to see that, and then we see that how big of a thing it was. Hence, Abu Sufyan was a bit of angry at that because of that. Another example was Umar al-Khattab was when there was a funeral was passing by. Actually, there was some disease spread out in Medina, and there many of the people died during that time. So the funerals were happening one by one. And when they were passing by, one of the funeral passed by, and people were saying that they said good things about him. Spoke well of the season. Said Umar bin Khattab said, yes, indeed, meaning he approved of the good things that they were saying. Then another funeral passed by, people said the same thing. Then the third one passed by, and people said bad things about that person. And Umar bin Khattab again says, yes, indeed. So Abu al-Aswad asked, what do you mean, why are you saying yes indeed whenever few of the people they are talking about a funeral? So he quoted the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, if four people testify in the favor of a Muslim, then whichever way, good or bad, if he's saying something good, then he will admit to Jannah. And and we asked Rasulullah, what about three? What about two? And Rasulullah said, yes, even three or two. But he said that we did not ask for one. But so we know for sure for 4, 3, and 2, up to 2 people, if they testify about the goodness of a person when he passes away, that could be a mean of for him to enter into Jannah. That is that again is not the issue of these people were showing off their good deeds. Rather, they did the good deeds and people were impacted. So hence, we should not leave any chance of any kind of a good deed that we can perform in the dunya, you never know that who may testify for you that that can cause you to enter into Jannah. So we should try our best. And this is again, it's a part of building up a good society to keep it intact with the good characteristics and goodness in the society. And that's what we see in the life of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu and the Khulafa Rashidin in general. Now, another aspect of a society to stay good is to have justice, and justice to the extent of even of a minor things have to be looked into. As one of the stories regarding Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu an, that they says that a man complained about Ali and to Umar radiallahu an. So when Umar looked into the matter, he said to Ali, sit down alongside your opponent, meaning he made them sit at the same level. And this is one of the things in Islam, that when a judge is making any judgment between people, they have to be at the same level. It cannot be a rich person has a different kind of status given in the court, or even if they're in prison, they are given different kind of luxuries in the prison. Islam does not do that. All of the people have to be treated equally. So now, when this happened, he made sure that both of them are sitting with each other. So he said, "Oh, Abu Hassan," and Ali's expression changed. And Umar passed judgment concerning the matter. Then he said to Ali, "Did you get angry because I made you sit along with him, treated you equally with the opponent?" And Ali radiallahu anh said, "You did not treat me and my opponent equally, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, because you honored me by calling me Abu Hassan." Abu Hassan means he was called by the kunya the father of Hassan, instead of calling by his name, meaning the person was called by his name while Ali was called by his kunya. So he said, this is not equal because you preferred me over my opponent by calling me by my kunya, by calling me Abu Hassan. Upon hearing this, Umar al-Khattab radiallahu an, he kissed the head of Ali radiallahu an, and he said, "May Allah not keep me in a land where Abu Hassan is not there." Subhanallah. This is the love Umar al-Khattab radiallahu an had for Ali radiallahu an and Ahlul Bayt and Ummatul Mu'mineen, and he made sure that he made dua to Allah that Allah not keep me in a land where Abu Hassan is not there. Up to that extent, that shows that what kind of a relationship Umar al-Khattab radiallahu an had with Ahlul Bayt, including Ali, including Abbas, including Abdullah bin Abbas, or the family of Abbas, and on and on. We talked about the whole lecture a couple of weeks ago. If somebody is interested, can go listen to that, inshallah. But just want to bring another example. Well, the example is not the Ahlul Bayt issue. Important thing is Umar understood that Ali was helping him here to make sure that the justice prevails, to even to the extent that he is being called Abu Hassan instead of Ali, while the other opponent was called by his name. So that's and Ali, Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh, he was happy to have Ali alongside with him for that kind of situation. Now, another, inshallah, I'll quickly finish this with two more examples, quick examples, because all these examples are important because these are from different aspects of a society, and that keeps the society intact for goodness. Another example was not to embarrass people in front of others. And that happened with, is reported by Asim bin Bahdala. And he said that one of the companions of Umar said, we were with Umar al-Khattab when a man passed wind. He broke his wudu or passed the wind. And then he said that the time for the prayer came. And now Umar said, I urge the one who passed wind to get up and do wudu. So Jarir bin Abdullah said, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, tell us all to get up and do wudu, for this is more concealing. So he did that. So Umar al-Khattab, he listened to the advice given to him. So not to embarrass a person in front of all, rather to make sure that, okay, because it's a recommended action anyways, right? To go and make wudu for every salah, because you get hasanat for that. So he said, why don't you announce that everybody go make wudu for salah? And so whoever wants to make wudu can make wudu, and they will conceal that who is the one who passed the wind at that time. Unlike today's society, we see that people that becomes a norm. Somebody makes a mistake, any kind of mistake, or past wind or something, everybody will start laughing and giggling and embarrassing a person for any kind of not necessarily talking about passing wind, but any kind of mistake a person makes. People embarrasses, and they think this is a normal thing. Unfortunately, this is what the society teaches, to bully around the people. Even though they talk about not to bully, but at the same time, on a larger scale, we see even the states are bullying each other. Okay, so the last example is about the example of how Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh make sure that there is equality among the people, to an extent of the most important aspect of among the people is the righteousness. That one of the freed slave, and he wanted to get married. So he wanted to get married to. So he proposed a sister who was a sister of a man who was from Quraysh, and the Qurayshi man refused to him because he thought of it as a freed slave. And Umar al-Khattab intervened now, and he said, "What kept you from marrying your sister to him?" He said, "He's a righteous man and is bringing to you the best of this world and the best of the hereafter, akhirah, which is talking about the wealth and the piety. Give your sister in marriage to him." And so he gave his sister to his marriage. He gave his sister to him in marriage. Now, the point is, it seemed very small thing probably from today's perspective, but all these things put them together, that creates a healthy society where righteousness is acknowledged, righteousness is promoted, unlike today's society, where not only that the haram actions have been promoted, indecency have been promoted, but many times we find that righteousness has been ridiculed, and the people make fun of it. Hence, we see the result of this kind of a behavior, that the corruption is spreading all across the world because of the very same thing. And so, subhanallah, what Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh did, and the Sahaba did, and in general, whenever for 13 centuries when Islam was implemented, the one of the key thing was to make sure that the goodness prevailed and righteousness prevailed, and that anybody who was doing good, those actions were acknowledged, so the other people get they feel comfortable to repeat the very same things, or not, or better than that. Inshallah, we'll stop our talk today, and if there will be any questions or comments, I'll try to address it. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.